as we go green and let's go racing. It is the Speedcar Championship Series. It is music to petrolheads' ears. Those mammoth V8 roaring through. This is brilliant stuff from these mammoth V8 stock cars, Speedcar racing.
To the grand headquarters of Speedcar here at Dubai Autodrome for round 4 of the uber successful series. The last round at Lusail's International Circuit in Qatar was the championship's first ever night race, and hopefully the first of many. And the talk of the paddock, without a doubt, had to be the 250cc champion and Valentino Rossi's best friend, Marco Melandri. The two-wheeled ace was 5th quickest in practice and even quicker in qualifying, starting on the grid 4th just alongside Jean Alesi. After a great battle with Christopher Zoechling, Marco Melandri finished 8th, becoming the pole sitter in the reverse grid for race 2. After dominating the race and even pulling out a lead of over 5 seconds, disappointment struck and a gearbox problem caused the Italian to withdraw from the race with only 4 laps remaining. The good news is he's back again and trying his luck on the international circuit here at Dubai Autodrome. Well, in qualifying, we have to say the man of the moment was Christopher Zoechling from Austria in the 26 numbered car this weekend. Normally we see him in the 25 numbered speed car. However, this weekend he's changed numbers and it seems to be a great success for him. Quickest lap, 1:41.754. Alongside him on the front row, it is the 27 car of Jean Alesi, also proving that he is one to watch this weekend here at Dubai Autodrome. So second row of the grid, and in third place it is Liuzzi from Italy in his Union Properties number 20 liveried car, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the 80 car is beside him on the grid. The local man and hero, Hasher Al Maktoum from the UAE in the other Union Properties team car, number 85, starts on the grid in 5th place, with Gianni Morbidelli, the race winner, in fact the only doubleheader race winner from season 1, is starting alongside him in 6th. On the 4th row of the grid, it's the 69 number of Johnny Herbert from the UK. And beside him, somebody who's returned to the championship this weekend, and this weekend only, David Tyrion, who this season has been the team manager for the Union Properties team. However, with David in the seat, it means that we've lost a driver for the weekend, and unfortunately that is the 96 numbered car of the Canadian man Jacques Villeneuve, who unfortunately has been unwell this weekend, and that means he's been unable to race. However, joining us again this weekend, the 33 car of Marco Melandri, better known on 2 wheels rather than 4. He managed to qualify 9th, and he is on the grid alongside and just in front of Damien Passini from France. Then looking further down the field, it is Thomas Biaggi starting 11th, Marchi Lee in 12th, Hamad Al Fardin, whose name you will probably know more from GP2 than from speedcar racing. However, Hamad Al Fardin taking the opportunity this weekend to drive a speed car. He's relatively local, not from Dubai but from Bahrain, so he's local to the region, and he certainly knows the track, having raced here in GP2 Asia just a few weeks ago. As we said, GP2 Asia not with us this weekend, which means that it's given him the chance to step in the car. So 25 is the number for Hamad Al Fardin this weekend. And last but certainly not least, a man that we know certainly locally in racing here, who normally races in the Radical Championship, and that's the 32 numbered car of Eric Charles. Well, who have we got this weekend? As we said, number 20, a man that we speak about quite often, Antonio Liuzzi from Italy. He started 7th on the grid for the last race, and he managed to get a 1st and 2nd place just a few weeks ago in Qatar for our first night race in the Speed Car series. So in the Union Property team, it is the number 20 car of Antonio Liuzzi. His teammate this weekend, as always, is the 85 number car of Sheikh Hasher Al Maktoum from the UAE. He's not had a great deal of experience on 2 wheels or 4 wheels, considering that he's actually local and comparing him to some of the other drivers that are here this weekend, but he's definitely the local hero, so the 85 car of Hasher Al Maktoum. Looking at the number 33 car, as we said, it's the 250cc world champion. That's obviously on two wheels, Marco Melandri. He started from pole position after a great battle with Christopher Zoechling a few weeks ago, and unfortunately had to retire with gearbox problems. So with Team Lavaggi having a spare seat once again this weekend, they've invited him back in the hope that we may see him on the podium this weekend after losing out just a few weeks ago. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as you may know, is one of the Formula One veterans, having started 160 Formula One races, 18 podiums in his career with 3 wins, and you probably remember him best from being in Williams and Sauber, as well as the bright yellow car of the Jordan as well. So with the 69 car this weekend is Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert running with JMB. Johnny Herbert being our champion from the inaugural Speedcar season. And his teammate this weekend is Damien Passini. Now, Damien has previously run in Italian GT racing. In fact, he was third in 2006 with 14 podiums in a year, which is an awful lot of podiums for a championship. He's also the French bench press champion. Don't ask me how I know that. So, looking further down the field, and the number 10 car of Gianni Morbidelli in his Palm Beach racing team from Italy. He also is known very well for Formula One, having started 64 races while he was with the Formula One Grand Prix World Championship. He also raced in F3 GTs, and probably best known to us for his World Touring Car Championship attempts. Thomas Biaggi in the number 4 car has spent, this is his 3rd weekend with us in Speedcar Series, and he did exceptionally well in his first 2 race events, getting podium finish in both Bahrain and also in Qatar a few weeks ago. And so he is racking up the points, and we'll go over the championship, the Drivers' Championship, in just a few moments. So 27 car, no guesses, it is Jean Alesi from France in his HPR Racing Speed car. In the number 50 car, it's Marchie Lee. Now, he had gearbox problems and spent a lot of time playing catch-up just a few weeks ago. You may know him from driving in A1. He was in fact the A1 driver for Team China, and he did well in the single-seaters then. He's done relatively well in the championship so far, and we just hope that he's got those problems sorted out for this weekend's race. As we said, we're missing this weekend the 96 car of Jacques Villeneuve. He's not able to join us because he's not feeling too well, and that's quite unfortunate that he hasn't been able to make it over. However, Christopher Zoechling is doing exceptionally well today, having qualified on pole position. And as we said, he's normally in the 25 car, this time in the number 26 car. He was battling for pole position a couple of weeks ago. He didn't have to do any battling today. He's right up there at the top, starting at the front of the field. So, welcoming back once again, Nasser Al-Attiyah, who, as we said, was running in the number 90 car with Team Barwa just a few weeks ago. Seen him round the paddock, so he's obviously interested in what's been going on. The 44 car this weekend is David Tyrion. David running with Durango, despite having to keep his role up as the UP team manager, and I know that he's been spending a lot of time with Hasher Al Maktoum over the weekend, giving him a few pointers here at his home circuit. Also in the 25 car this weekend, it's not Christopher Zoechling. As we said, he's moved to the number 26 car, but it is this time Hamid Al Fardan from Bahrain. He's in the Durango car, normally driving in GP2. And then last but not least, the 32 car of Eric Charles in the Continental Circus Racing team. So as we look at the drivers, we'll just go over the track itself. 4.2 kilometre long is the international circuit here at Dubai Autodrome. 11 turns, 7 of them are left-handers and 4 of them right-handers. A couple of tricky ones in the middle there as well. We'll point those out as we go along. So as the big V8 engines start to roar, we'll quickly go over the Drivers' Championship and tell you that Gianni Morbidelli is currently in the lead on 37 points. 7 points clear of the man in second place. That's wee Johnny Herbert. who is in front of Liuzzi, who's 1 point behind him in third. So it really is a battle for that top spot as we go into round 4 this weekend here at Dubai Autodrome. Looking very quickly further down the field, Heinz-Harald Frenzen's in 4th in the Drivers' Championship, Jean Alesi 5th, Thomas Biaggi now up into 6th because of his 2 podium successes, Hasher Al Maktoum in 7th, Damien Piscini 8th, Jacques Villeneuve 9th, Christopher Zoechling is in 10th, Marchi Lee 11th, Lavaggi is in 12th, and Marco Melandri picked up a point last time round for his pole position and is 13th in the Drivers' Championships. The good news here locally is that the Union Properties team is now on 42 points, meaning that it is leading the team championship standings by over 4 points. So as we watch the cars making their way round the circuit, we'll keep an eye out. It is, of course, as we said, a rolling start today. And a rolling start a lot better for these cars. Very, very heavy cars, an exception to most of the other cars and bikes that we see on the circuit this weekend, running along with the local championships. And I know that a number of the spectators and drivers and teams alike have all decided to come out and watch the roar of the Speedcar. You can't really get away from them. They're exceptionally loud. The drivers are exceptionally bright in their overalls, and there's an awful lot of grid girls out there as well. So conditions here today, very, very hot. In fact, it's nearly 35 degrees and climbing as the afternoon goes on. It's just after 3 o'clock local time, which means that it's starting to cool and should cool quite substantially within the 40-minute race. However, it's very difficult for the drivers to concentrate as the heat does soar. Very, very hot inside these cars. Some of the temperatures last year they were recording in the cockpit was 76 degrees. So you can imagine trying to drive and concentrate and battle with not only the roar of the engine, but of course battling the heat as well. So a rolling start. We can see the pace car at the front there, making their way round now past the management building, which is probably the second quickest part of the circuit. The 32 car then of Eric Charles at the back, purple and white. Making their way through the bowl. We said there's some quite tricky technical parts in the middle, and this is exactly where we were talking about. So the pace car pulls off into the pit lane. They've got that last turn. It's turn 16 as we know it here. They look towards the lights, still in formation, and we look to Christopher Zoechling to start the race. So the car is into the pits. The lights are green, and as we can see, it is away, and straight away that's the 20 car of Liuzzi pushing on the tail of Christopher Zoechling down the inside. Further afield you can see Sheikh Hasher Al Maktoum with Johnny Herbert getting a good start as well. He's decided to take the outside line. Well, there's no battling in the middle as they come round turn 1, and as you can see, dropping further down the field already is the 32 car of the local man, who is Eric Charles. At the front then, it looks as though the 27 car of Jean Alesi has managed to pull out in front of Christopher Zoechling, as he has with the 20 car of Liuzzi just behind him. I'm not sure who it was in 4th, but certainly in 5th it was one of the Union Property team cars. So Christopher then in the blue liveried Speedcar, looking to the inside. The nose dips heavy on the brakes. Still the 27 car of Jean Alesi out in the lead. Christopher desperately trying to clamber that position back from him, but anything can happen. It is Speedcar, and Gianni Morbidelli spins on the inside of that left-hander there as they come up to the management building. That hairpin once again down into second gear for them, and it's very slow as there's a defending line there between Liuzzi in the red and white car and Heinz-Harald Frenzen on the outside. But Johnny Herbert doing as usual and just waiting for battle to commence in front of him. So just under 40 minutes remaining. And in the lead, the 27 car of Jean Alesi, with Christopher Zoechling pulling away from Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third. So it's Liuzzi in fourth, which means that he's now got Johnny Herbert on his tail, and there's a slight gap as we look further down the field. So we wait for them to come round to complete the first lap. And as we said, it looks as though it's the 27 car maintaining that lead as he does, coming across the line now. So 27, Jean Alesi after the first lap. Christopher Zoechling missing out on the opening sequence. Heinz-Harald Frentzen up into third, which means that Liuzzi dropped down into fourth. Johnny Herbert making his way up as well. David Tyrion just behind him in sixth. Marco Melandri in seventh already. Well done to him, which means that Sheikh Hasher Al Maktoum has missed out on the opening lap, pushing him down into eighth. Thomas Biaggi just behind him. Damien Passini rounding up the top 10, and Hamid Al Fardan right on his tail. So let's have a look once again. As we said, Jean Alesi in the lead. Just over 37.5 minutes remaining. Christopher Zoechling just over a second behind Jean Alesi. He doesn't have to worry too much about what's going on behind him, because at the moment behind him is that battle between Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Liuzzi and Johnny Herbert, desperately trying to make his way through. So Liuzzi runs wide, he lets pass not only Johnny Herbert but Heinz-Harald Frentzen as well, meaning that we should see the battle now between Frentzen and Johnny Herbert. Does this mean that Liuzzi is now got to battle for David Tyrion? Well, David this weekend in the 44 numbered blue liveried Speedcar. And as you can see, it's almost nose to tail between Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Liuzzi, Johnny Herbert, and then there's that gap down to David Tyrion, who's just over a second adrift of Johnny Herbert. However, look how close the gap is between Johnny and Liuzzi now. So Liuzzi right on the tail of Johnny. As we see them once again, there's Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Johnny Herbert follows, less than half a second's difference between the two of them. But look at the distance between Johnny Herbert with that man, Liuzzi, right on his tail. It's 0.025 of a second as they come round again to complete the second lap. Jean Alesi still in the lead, best time of 1:43.425. Christopher Zoechling in second. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is closing the gap up to Christopher Zoechling, with Johnny Herbert in the mix as well. You can see Johnny again, he's defending his line from the 20 Union Properties team car of Liuzzi, and he's also wanting to battle and take that position away from the number 80 car of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. 36 minutes remaining, and Speedcar proving why it is such a successful championship so far. Very good racing and very close battling, not only for the likes of this man, Jean Alesi, who's a veteran in the world of motorsport, especially in Formula One. And then also you've got the likes of David Tyrion, who is the ex-world karting champion, and behind him his protege Hasher Al Maktoum. Hasher, as we said previously, not doing a great deal of racing. In fact, he only started 3 years ago in karting, and what an exceptional career he's having so far. So 35 minutes remaining. There's the 27 car of Jean Alesi. So braking into that left-hander. You can see that Heinz-Harald Frentzen has now pulled that gap from the 69 car of Johnny Herbert. That means that Johnny is now defending his line not only from Liuzzi in the 20 car, but the 44 numbered car of David Tyrion as well, who is now on the tail of Liuzzi. So it looks as though Johnny Herbert's managing to brake a lot later going into the turns. However, as they come once again to complete another lap, it looks as though it is David Tyrion looking down the inside. He wants that position from the Union Properties team car, the one that he's managing. So again, having a look down the inside, can he leave the braking very late? Well, he has done, but not late enough. So the 20 car of Liuzzi just out braking him, but running slightly wide as they come round that second turn. So who comes out first? Well, it's still side by side as they go into the left-hander, which again moves round to the right. So it's Liuzzi's got the line at the moment. Let's have a look at that once again. It's the number 33 car of Marco Melandri, who's had a spin towards the back of the circuit, which means that Marco's now been pushed down into 13th, still ahead of Eric Charles, however. And the fight still continues between the 44 car of David Tyrion, who is now in front of the 20 car of Liuzzi, and that gap has not only been reduced, but there has been a change of positions as well. So Jean Alesi still in the lead, completing 3 laps. Christopher Zoechling in second. He's just over over 2 seconds adrift from the front runner. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has now reduced that gap from Zoechling to just 1.2 seconds, with Johnny Herbert defending his line from Liuzzi, who has had to defend his line from David Thierrien, who's now out in front. As you can see, Liuzzi not happy about that, and he's desperate to take that position back from the 44 numbered Durango car of this weekend, David Thierrien. As we continue to watch the battle in front of the many crowds here at Dubai Autodrome, 33 minutes remaining into turn 1. And towards the start-finish straight once again, Jean Alesi passes the finish line as we look at a big lock-up there. May have been Hasher Al Maktoum. Well, maybe it wasn't, as we see Hasher just behind his teammate now, in fact. So Jean Alesi in the lead, Zoechling in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third, Johnny Herbert fourth, David Thierrien still defending from Liuzzi, who's been pushed down into sixth, Hasher Al Maktoum just behind his teammate, as you can see, in seventh, with Damien Piscini quite far adrift now, in fact over 6 seconds adrift from Hasher Al Maktoum. So really the main battle is for third and fifth place. So Johnny Herbert there, just in front of David Thierrien, David on his tail. And we've got another nose to tail, it's between the two teammates of Hasher Al Maktoum, who's just behind Antonio Liuzzi. And here once again we see Thomas Biaggi damage to the front of his car. Now, will that cause a black flag for him? It may do if he continues along the racing line and we see debris being strewn across the track. But for the time being, the damage doesn't look all that bad, and maybe he will be able to continue. Remember, he really wants to finish within the top 8. He's managed a podium every round that we've seen him so far. And Thomas Biaggi, as we said, has made his way quite well up the Drivers' Championship list, now in 6th, just behind Jean Alesi, and that of course because of his podium finishes in the last 2 races. Well, here the 20 car out in front as in P1, but he's out in front of his teammate Hasher Al Maktoum. So Liuzzi in 6th, Hasher in 7th, and the distance between them is less than half a second, as we see Christopher Zoechling locking his brakes there. He's fighting as hard as he possibly can. He wants to take that position back from Jean Alesi, but Jean Alesi is proving to do exactly what Gianni Morbidelli did at the same time last year, and he's just watching the battles in his mirror and pulling further and further ahead. He's now nearly 3 seconds ahead of Christopher Zoechling, who's in second. He doesn't have to worry too much. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is still over a second adrift from him, with Johnny Herbert, David Thierrien and Antonio Liuzzi all in the mix for third and fourth respectively. So 30 minutes remaining as we see Liuzzi in front of Hasher Al Maktoum. You can see the gap, and now there's no gap certainly between the 69 car of Johnny Herbert, who moves to the outside. Is he actually letting David Thierrien down the inside? It looks as though he did. Is he going to try and get the faster line on the inside? Well, this is an area that he doesn't want to miss out on, because David is very quick down this section. It's a very difficult part of the track, not that you can see, but there's a lot of camber on there. It's very quick, and there's a real hump in the middle of the circuit, which means that it unbalances the car, and then it's heavy on the brakes once again as they go through this bowl section towards the final turn. And as they make their way to the final turn, it is now David Thierrien in front of Johnny Herbert. So it is Jean Alesi, Christopher Zoechling, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, with David Thierrien in front of Johnny Herbert. Liuzzi just behind him, Hasher Al Maktoum still on the tail of his teammate Liuzzi, with Damien Piscini quite far down now, in fact over 7 seconds, so somebody's hit one of the marker boards. Not to worry though, it's only polystyrene. So there we see the 44 car of David Thierrien, who is now not attacking but defending, as he looks in front of him to this, the number 80 car of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's in 3rd place. Fastest man on the track, incidentally, is Jean Alesi in the 27 car, 142.538, which means that he is the only man to have broken into the 142 barrier. So just under 29 minutes remaining. And as you can see, the closest battle at the moment is between the two teammates in the Union Properties team car of Liuzzi and Hasher Al Maktoum, but this is the man at the front. And as we said, quickest lap as well, 1:42.538. It is the 27 car of Jean Lacey. So watching Jean as he manoeuvres his way round the 4.2 kilometre international circuit here at Dubai Autodrome in temperatures of 35 degrees. Just over 28 minutes remaining, and you can't believe that they've been battling for a short time in relative terms to the 40 minutes that they have to. And you should have seen some of the drivers that came out of the local races here just half an hour ago. They were complaining how hot it is, and it's got very hot in just the last few days here at Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So once again, Jean Lacey in the lead. Christopher Zoechling still hanging on to that second place position, and he's doing very well. He's just 2.9 seconds adrift of Jean Lacey. The man he's going to have to start worrying about is the man who's a second behind him now, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And second is a long time in motorsport, but in Speedcar, you just never know what's going to happen. So once again, Jean Lacey in the lead, Christopher Zoechling in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in third, David Tyrion has made his way up into fourth, Johnny Herbert fifth, Liuzzi sixth, Hasher seventh, Damien Piscini in eighth. In ninth, it's Gianni Morbidelli, which is surprising from Gianni, as we've seen him on the podium a number of times here at Dubai Autodrome. Rounding up the top 10, Thomas Biaggi, as we look once again at the front runners. So just over 26.5 minutes remaining. And Zoechling in the 26 numbered car is in second. And look at his lap times in comparison to Jean Lacey, and he's now going quicker than Jean Lacey. So Christopher Zoechling has just put in a 1:42.8. However, Heinz-Harald Frentzen on his previous lap is now into the 1:42s as well, and a 1:42.7. So there we see Heinz-Harald Frentzen, currently the quickest man on track. And as I say that, Christopher Zoechling puts in a time of 1:42.4, which means he's now gone quicker than Jean Lacey, and the time difference between Jean Lacey and Christopher is now 2.5 seconds, with another gap pulling out. In fact, he is pulling out a gap from Heinz-Harald Frentzen. It was down to a second, it's now over a second and a half. So Zoechling is the man with the quickest lap, 1:42.4, 25.5 minutes remaining. And as you can see quite clearly in the lead, Jean Lacey, however, his previous lap time was nearly half a second slower than that of the 26 numbered Speedcar, which of course is Christopher Zoechling. Christopher starting on the front row of the grid today, pole position alongside Jean Lacey. However, Jean managed to get a better start than Christopher and overtook him before they even got into the first turn. But Christopher doing well, he's starting to pull back the time difference, as we said, 1:42.4. So here, Johnny Herbert. Johnny in the number 69 car, ahead of Vitantonio Liuzzi in the number 20 Union Properties team car. Just behind him is his teammate, Hasher Al Maktoum. There's now just over half a second between Johnny Liuzzi and Hasher Al Maktoum as well. So the blue numbered 44 car of David Tyrion is in fourth. Jean Lacey comes round to complete 9 laps now, with his previous time again slower than Christopher Zoechling. So Christopher not only the fastest man on the track a few laps ago, getting the fastest lap time, but he's also the fastest man on the track at the moment, which makes a big difference. In fact, he's 1:42.732 in comparison to Jean Lacey's 1:42.741. Look further down the field, and Johnny Herbert's the only other man that's in the 1:42s, his previous lap time being a 1:42.8, so you can see how close they really are. So Jean Lacey in the lead. 27 numbered speed car, and the 26 numbered speed car, Christopher Zoechling, in second. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in third. David Tyrion determined to get onto the podium in his first weekend out this weekend in the 44 car. Johnny Herbert in fifth. Liuzzi sixth. Hasher Al Maktoum in seventh. And Damien Piscini in eighth. Ninth at the moment, as we said, which is a surprise, is Gianni Morbidelli with Thomas Biaggi in rounding up the top 10. And as we can see, as we look back to our screens, it is the number 20 car of Liuzzi, who looks as though he's slowed substantially. He does have a puncture to the front right tyre, and that looked as though it was causing certainly a spark somewhere from the undercarriage of that speed car. As you can see, the suspension collapsing under the weight of the punctured tyre. Can he make his way back into the pit lane? He is a whole minute, in fact nearly a minute. He's 40 seconds ahead of Eric Charles and just under 20 seconds ahead of Hamad Al Fardan. So if they can change that tyre quick enough, then we may see that he can make his way back through the field once again. But that means that Hasher Al Maktoum has now made his way further up the grid and is now in sixth, just behind Johnny Herbert. So Jean Alesi, Zoechling in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen third, David Tyrion now up into fourth, with Johnny Herbert in fifth, Hasher Al Maktoum sixth, Piscini is now in seventh, Morbidelli is now up to eighth, Thomas Biaggi in ninth, and Marchie Lee now rounds up the top 10. So as we said, it's disappointment for the number 20 car of Liuzzi, Antonio Liuzzi, who unfortunately suffered a puncture on the last lap, and that meant that he's had to come into the pit lane. Fortunately, he's actually made it all the way back to the pits, and as long as he can get that tyre changed and there aren't any other problems to the car, then we may see him rejoin the field with 21 minutes remaining. And anything can happen in speed car in 21 minutes. In fact, anything can happen in speed car in 1 minute, as we look at Johnny Herbert in the 69 numbered car gaining, and he's also quicker in time than the 44 numbered speed car of David Tyrion. 21 minutes remaining, so only half of this race having been completed so far, with the front runner Jean Alesi, who is 2.5 seconds adrift of the man in second place, Christopher Zoechling. So Jean Alesi having completed 11 laps, as has Christopher, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, David Tyrion, Johnny Herbert, should I say, and Hasher Al Maktoum. There's quite a big gap then down to Damien Piscini, who is 8.5 seconds off the pace, adrift from Hasher Al Maktoum, and he's a whole 22 seconds off the pace from the front runner. So here we see, as we said, the 20 car going back out on track after his puncture and making his way into the pit lane. And where does that put him? Well, as we expected, it doesn't put him at the back of the grid, it actually puts him in 13th, just ahead of Eric Charles. Now he's only 2 seconds adrift from Hamad Al Fardan, despite the fact that he's actually 43 seconds adrift from Jean Alesi, and with just under 20 minutes remaining, he really does have a good chance of making his way through the field. His previous lap times were in the 1:42, and his lap time at the moment a 1:40, in fact a 2:14. However, this is his out lap, and we should see him making his way through the field within the next probably 3 to 4 laps. So we see the two teammates side by side once again. However, they're not side by side as we look down the field. In fact, Hasher Al Maktoum is in 6th place, and his teammate Liuzzi is in 14th. Now this may be good for Hasher Al Maktoum, because with Liuzzi, his teammate behind him, that gives Liuzzi the opportunity to almost defend for Hasher and give Hasher the chance to try and pull the time back and make his way towards Johnny Herbert in the 69 car, who's ahead of him, and he's actually 5 seconds ahead of Hasher. So we'll Hasher be able to keep his lap times consistent enough to pull back the time from Johnny Herbert? Well, Johnny's lap times at the moment are in the 1:43s in comparison to Hasher, whose previous lap time was a 1:45.2. As we have a glimpse of the number 10 car of Gianni Morbidelli. So just over 18 minutes remaining. Cassini in 7th, Gianni Morbidelli in 8th. There's Marchi Lee in the number 50 speed car. And in front of him, Thomas Biaggi in the PAM racing car. You can see the damage to the front of his car. I'm wondering who he's gone into, and I'm not entirely sure if it was another car. We did see one of the boards having been hit slightly earlier on. Now, they are made of polystyrene, so you'd expect them to be very soft. However, with the warm temperatures and the heat, they dry out and they do actually bake in the midday sun, which means that they do cause damage to some of these cars, and hitting them in just the wrong place could have resulted in the damage to the front of Thomas Biaggi's car. Definitely be asking him before race 2 tomorrow afternoon here at the Dubai Autodrome, the international circuit, 4.2 kilometers long. And let's hope that it's a little cooler tomorrow than it is today. So let's have a look at the order once again. Jean Alesi in the lead in the number 27 car. Number 26 car of Christopher Zoechling is in 2nd. Heinz Harald Frentzen 3rd. David Tyrion is in 4th, with Johnny Herbert now down into 5th. Hasher Al Maktoum has made his way up into 6th place, and Gianni Morbidelli, who's just taken an advantage from Damien Passini, means that he's now in 7th, with Damien down into 8th. Thomas Biaggi with damage to the front of his car in 9th. Marchi Lee in the number 50 speed car is the man to round up the top 10, with Marco Melandri behind him. Hamid Al Fardin, Eric Charles and Vitantonio Luizzi is now down into 14th. However, Luizzi's time, not too bad, 1:46 in comparison to Eric Charles and Hamid Al Fardin, who are currently running slower than he is. You can see crowds standing to watch these cars. You can hear them before you see them. Great big V8 engines, and the roar from them is absolutely phenomenal. So there's our leader, 27 car of Jean Alesi. He's now just under 2.5 seconds ahead of the 26 car of Christopher Zoechling. Jean actually using as much of the width of the track as he can. His lap time still in the 1:42s, 1:42.8. Christopher still quicker than Jean Alesi. His time is a 1:42.6. So just over 15 minutes remaining. You can see in the background the cars on the local highway. I'm sure they're getting a thrill from watching this race as well, even if they're not in the grandstand. It's just, they may not know the drivers who they're actually watching. Veterans of Formula One, veterans of GT racing, veterans of Le Mans, and some newcomers as well. Christopher Zoechling is one of the men to watch. Say he's a man, he just turned 21 yesterday. And I know that it was a great birthday present for him, starting on the front row of the grid today. In fact, he was actually in pole position, having put in a phenomenal final lap in qualifying with just 2 minutes remaining on the clock. So Terrier just over a second in front of the 69 car of Johnny Herbert. David probably slightly more used to the hot conditions here than Johnny is. As we look once again, it's one of the Durango cars. Well, let's find out who it is. It's the 25 car of Hamid Al Fardin. Disappointment for Hamid Al Fardin, who was running in 12th. Well, not only is the tyre disintegrating, but it's actually pulling a lot of the side panel off with it as well. The difference in Speedcar between last year and this year is that last year there were tin bodies. This year you can see it's fiberglass, and that means that unfortunately when there is a bit of damage it starts to disintegrate. So the tyre actually looks as though it's intact. It may not have been the tyre, but look at the debris on the road surface there, as we see more debris flying away as one of the other drivers runs over it. Now that shouldn't bring out the flags at all. You may see a couple of yellows, however that's about it, and it is just about off the racing line. Perhaps just one or two pieces very close to the racing line, but shouldn't be doing any damage to any of the other cars as long as they stay out of the way in that area. Just under 13 minutes remaining, and here's the battle between the 44 car of David Tyrion and the 69 numbered car of the inaugural Speedcar season champion, Johnny Herbert. Johnny is still 5 seconds, in fact no, a second and a half adrift of David Tyrion, and it's been very consistent, and it has remained the same gap for the last 3 laps now, as Jean Alesi has come round to complete 16 laps with still 12 minutes remaining. So Zoechling still in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third, David Tyrion fourth, and Johnny Herbert fifth. So the closest cars we have at the moment are actually a second and a half adrift of one another, which is almost unheard of in the Speedcar series. Gianni Morbidelli crosses the line. He's now up into 7th, with Passini in 8th, Thomas Biaggi in 9th, and Marchi Lee in the background, who is rounding up the top 10. Marco Melandri, 5 seconds adrift from Marchi, is in 11th, with Hamad Al Fardin in the pit because of the damage to the front of his car. Eric Charles is still out there as well. He's now in 13th, just ahead of Vitantonio Liuzzi. So damage to 2 of the cars then. The number 4 car of Thomas Biaggi and the number 25 car of, not this weekend, Christopher Zoechling, who normally runs that number. Christopher's out in 2nd place now. He's in the 26 car, and in the 25 car is Hamad Al Fardin, the GP2 Asia Series driver. 11 minutes remaining. I'm sure a lot of these guys starting to suffer from the heat. There really is no getting away from it. The temperatures build the longer that they stay out there, and the cockpit temperatures are much higher than the air and track temperatures. Air temperature earlier on was 35 degrees. The sun is starting to drop a bit from the sky. It will start to get cooler now as the day goes on. Sunset is about 6:30, but it means that there are shadows in places, as you can see, going into the first turn. The rest of the track is still very, very hot, with the sun getting lower in the sky. Jean Alesi is the leader, and he has been from the outset, with Christopher Zoechling in 2nd. Christopher having started in pole position but losing out before he even got into the first turn. However, he's managed to maintain that position the whole way through, and is now 5.5 seconds ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's in 3rd. David Tyrion is in 4th, Johnny Herbert's in 5th, Hasher Al Maktoum still out there, he's in 6th, Gianni Morbidelli now up into 7th, Damien Passini 8th, Thomas Biaggi 9th, and Marchi Lee still rounding up the top 10. So here we look at the 44 numbered car of David Tyrion. David, who was 2nd in the championship last year, running with the Union Properties team, and 2nd not by points but by podium finishes, because Johnny Herbert, the winner, and David Tyrion, who came 2nd, were both on joint points. However, Johnny Herbert had more podium finishes than David, meaning that David had to settle for 2nd place. So Passini gaining on Thomas Biaggi, or the other way around, should we say, Biaggi gaining on Thomas Passini. Passini there in the 13 numbered car. Normally Normally it's a blue car. This weekend it's red and white, but no change for the number 4 PAM Racing team. So we have a look at the front once again. Now what's happened to Jean Alesi? Because Jean Alesi, although still in the lead, is now under a second. In fact, he's just over half a second in the lead for Christopher Zoechling, who looks as though he's on a quicker lap than Jean Alesi. Now that means that something has happened, because in one lap he's gone from 7 seconds in the lead to just over half a second in the lead. And let's keep an eye on this battle as we see in the front, the 27 car of Jean Alesi. Christopher Zoechling now got Alesi very much in his sights. As we said, half a second between the two of them now, and in fact on the previous lap Jean Alesi was just slightly quicker than Christopher Zoechling, just by 1/100th of a second in fact. And you can tell without even having the on-board shots that Jean Alesi is having to think about defending his line at every turn, and Christopher desperately wants to take that place back, the place that he lost before going into the first turn. Very difficult, these rolling starts. You can see the crowds eager and wondering what's happened within one lap for Jean Alesi to now be just under a second ahead of Zoechling. Heinz-Harald Frentzen still in third. David Thierrien quite far adrift of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, in fact just over 5 seconds, but Johnny Herbert closing the gap once again on David Thierrien. Sheikh Hasher Al Maktoum in 6th. And keep an eye on this battle at the front. 27 car of Jean Alesi, who was 7 seconds ahead of Zoechling, is now only 1 second ahead of Zoechling, but it looks as though he is managing to pull away once again. And this is the young up-and-coming single-seater hopeful, looking at the tail of one of the ex-Formula One drivers, and a very successful driver he was at that, and he's been successful since leaving Formula One as well, doing the GP Masters. Now he's in the Speedcar series. He missed out in the very last race of the inaugural season on the championship. He was very upset about that. He's been determined this season to keep out in front. He desperately wants to win the championship, but he's got to watch out for these young guns in the 26 car. Christopher Zoechling desperately trying to gain as much momentum as possible as they come round to that final turn once again. Just over 5.5 minutes remaining. It looks as though the 27 car of Jean Alesi has the advantage on that final turn. However, he's got more power in the straight line. Can Christopher get a toe off of the 27 car of Jean Alesi? You can't even see Christopher. He's tucked in very close behind Alesi in the 27 car. It's now just over half a second, so Christopher pulling the gap back. He's taking a slightly different line as they come towards the S's. That sharp left and right-hander down towards the back straight. 5 minutes remaining. Jean in the lead, Christopher Zoechling in second, in fact on his tail. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third, David Thierrien in fourth, Johnny Herbert in fifth, Hasher Al Maktoum sixth, in seventh is Gianni Morbidelli, eighth is Damien Passini, in ninth now is Thomas Biaggi, Marchi Lee just coming in behind him, Marco Melandri, Eric Charles, Lee Utsi are all still out there. Unfortunately, Hamad Al Farden had to go in to check out the damage to the front of his car, and that means that he's dropped down into 14th. 4.5 minutes remaining. It's about 3 to 4 laps. So you can see the struggle trying to get these heavy cars around those sharp turns. Christopher being the younger of these two drivers, and also a lot taller than Jean Alesi, which causes him a few problems getting in and out of the car, and it's not an ideal seating position for him once he's in. But this is almost a home circuit for him, having been brought up partly in Dubai, and starting in Dubai as well. So Jean Alesi is now 0.8 of a second in front of Zoechling. It looks as though he's struggling a bit with the back end of his car there. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third, David Thierrien fourth, Johnny Herbert in fifth. So Zoechling desperately trying to claw back those hundreds and even thousandths of a second. Seems to be quicker in certain sections than others. In fact, sector 2, he's pulling back the time, and unfortunately, it looks as though Jean Alesi may be quicker coming out of the turns than going into them. So here we see, once again, late braking from Zoechling. You can see him fighting to stop the back end from stepping out. This is a difficult section. It doesn't look like it on your TV screens, but believe me, it's not somewhere that you want to lose control. There's a lot of downforce at the beginning of that straight, but not in the middle, and then you have to brake hard, which really unsettles the car going through this left-hander, which is a lot of cross camber as well. Now they head towards the final turn. Still Jean Alesi in the lead, having completed 21 laps, about to complete 22, with just over 2 minutes remaining. And let's have a look at the gap after this. Well, it was 0.8 of a second. It's now 0.7 of a second. So once again, Christopher Zoechling trying to battle his way up to that first place position, but he's got to get onto the tail of the 27 car first before he can think about doing anything. And I'm sure that Jean Alesi will try and defend his line as well as he possibly can. Only another 2 laps remaining after, well, another 1 lap after this one. So there's just over a minute and a half left on the clock. The battle at the moment that we're looking at is Christopher Zoechling just behind Jean Alesi. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as you can see in the background, with David Thierrien just behind him. And there's a big gap now. In fact, so much of a gap that there's 3 laps difference in the front runners to the tail enders. So Christopher heavy on the brakes through the hairpin, past the management building, coming into the bowl once again. The last lap time, Christopher was quicker than Jean Alesi. Jean's time a 1:43.202, Christopher's a 1:43.088, which means Christopher again being the quickest man on the circuit. So it looks as though they'll cross the line to continue for a final lap with 30 seconds remaining on the clock. So as we can see, Jean Alesi in the lead. Christopher Zoechling now only has 11 turns to try and get that position back from Jean Alesi, who stole it from him before the first turn on the first lap. And will there be any problems for Jean Alesi? Well, he tends to keep his cool, but there's back markers coming into play. Now, is that Eric Charles? Back. It is the... In fact, no, it's the 25 car of Hamid Al Farden. So Hamid making sure that he's clear of the 2 front runners, Jean Alesi and Christopher Zoechling. That's not going to have helped Christopher in any way whatsoever. 6 turns remaining, and we are on the final lap, as we said, with Jean Alesi in the lead, Christopher Zoechling in second. You can see Hamid Al Farden, who's not in third, but he's just behind them. Hamid actually down into 13th, having come upon a problem just a few laps ago, as has the Ute, almost a similar problem, and there is damage to the front of Thomas Biaggi's car as well. But at the moment, as they come round to the last few turns, it is Jean Alesi just half a second ahead of Christopher Zoechling, with Heinz-Harald Frentzen now nearly 8 seconds adrift of the front runners, and it's a battle to the very end. They come towards the final turn. Is Christopher going to have a look down the inside? Well, he's not close enough to do it, but I'm sure he's going to be happy with second place as they go towards the checkered flag, and it is once again Jean Alesi taking the checkered flag from Christopher Zoechling in second. Heinz-Harald Frentzen coming through in the background for third, with a David Tyrion very much on his tail to take fourth. And that has been an absolutely brilliant race for the 21-year-old who turned 21 just yesterday, as he sneakily takes that position after the checkered flag. Jean Alesi takes the checkered flag and is today's race winner, with Christopher Zoechling in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen third, David Tyrion in fourth, desperately trying also to take a position from Heinz-Harald Frentzen on the last lap. Johnny Herbert fifth. In sixth, Hasher Al Maktoum seventh, Gianni Morbidelli, and Damien Passini rounds up the top eight, meaning that Passini will start from pole position tomorrow, with Gianni Morbidelli beside him, and then on the second row of the grid, a chance for Hasher Al Maktoum, who will be starting beside Johnny Herbert. But for today's race, as we said, the 27 car of Jean Alesi takes the checkered flag just in front of Christopher Zoechling in the 26 numbered speed car. Watch Jean Alesi making his way on his cool down lap back towards the pits, waving to the fans that are out there. Well, Heinz-Harald Frentzen will also be happy. He'll be on the podium. David Tyrion missing out by just half a second, in fact, so pushing very hard in the last few laps of that race. In fact, David not far off the pace from Jean Alesi and Christopher Zoechling, with Heinz-Harald Frentzen in fact 3 seconds slower than the front runners, obviously knowing that not to push it in the last lap, because he knew that he had a clear gap from David. And as we said, David desperately trying to get that position in the last few turns. So we watch the cars making their way now into the pit lane. Let's see how hot these drivers are. I don't mean hot as in their looks, I mean hot as in the temperature. 27, Jean Alesi stopping in front of the number 1 banner. Christopher Zoechling in second, and I bet you it takes Christopher longer to get out the car because he's about 6'5". So the 27 overalls, watch your step there. It is Jean Alesi on the top of his car. Well, as they make their way towards the podium, we'll just remind you once again, Jean Alesi taking the checkered flag, with Christopher Zoechling in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third, David Tyrion in fourth, Johnny Herbert in fifth, Hasher Al Maktoum, the local hero, in sixth, Gianni Morbidelli in seventh, Damien Passini in eighth, Thomas Biaggi was in ninth, with Marco Melandri rounding up the top 10. Just behind him, Marchie Lee in 11th, as we see Jean just struggling a little with the heat. As we said, 35 degrees today. So not a great race for the number 20 car of Vitantonio Liuzzi, who unfortunately had to come in with what looked like a puncture, or possibly even some suspension, but more likely to be a puncture. And Hamid Al Farden, his first time out in the speed car this weekend, with Eric Charles in 14th place. So the drivers just getting their breath back. And Jean Alesi speaking to a couple of the officials.
Drivers are ready, just about, after Christopher's
So you can see the podium ready and the trophies in the background. So Christopher making sure that his overalls are back on so we can see all of his nice sponsors. We haven't yet seen Heinz-Harald Frentzen. In fact, there he is, as I say. Heinz-Harald Frentzen sitting down on the right-hand side of our screen. The fortunate thing is that Christopher will be in the shade. Unfortunately, Jean Alesi is the man who's got to stand in the sun once more, as we see Heinz-Harald Frentzen making his way onto the podium and the third step. And in second, Christopher Zoechling, who's still taller than the man on the top step. It is Jean Alesi. So Jean Alesi standing in the sun. And let's pray silence for the national anthem of the winning driver. So they pop their caps on. And there we see Heinz-Harald Frentzen being presented with a trophy. The chairman of Dubai Autodrome presenting the trophy to Christopher Zoechling in second. And look at the smile on that young man's face. Now we just wait for the trophy for the man on the top step being presented by the CEO of Union Properties, Mr. Salman Azam. So top step of the podium and smiles once again from Jean Alesi. So they get together to take the photo, and we remind you once again, Jean Alesi in the middle on the top step with Christopher Zoechling in second and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third. A great start to the race weekend, and of course more to come tomorrow afternoon as well. And the first pole position for Damien Passini in his number 13 Speedcar. Gianni Morbidelli will be beside him on the front row of the grid. As Speedcar returns once again to the United Arab Emirates. as we said, Jean Lacey was our race winner for today, with Christopher Zoechling in second, Heinz-Harald Frentzen third, David Tyrion fourth, fifth, Johnny Herbert, Hasher Al Maktoum just behind him, Gianni Morbidelli in seventh, and Damien Passini in eighth, meaning that he will be on the front row of the grid tomorrow as the top 8 are reversed. Well, that's it for today. I am certainly looking forward to race 2, and we hope you join us again tomorrow afternoon for more fun in the sun here at Dubai Autodrome.
The red lights extinguished, we go green and let's go racing. It is the Speedcar Championship Series. It is music to petrol heads' ears. Those mammoth V8 roaring through. This is brilliant stuff from these mammoth V8 stock cars, Speedcar racing.